When billionaire Adrian Cole arrogantly clicked his fingers to summon a waitress, expecting instant service, she calmly turned and said, "We don't serve disrespect here." The next morning, he walked back into the cafe, not as a customer, but as the new owner. The rain was falling in steady sheets that Thursday morning, painting the streets in silver as Adrian Cole stepped out of his sleek black car. His tailored suit alone cost more than most people's monthly rent, and the umbrella he held was carried by his driver. The small neighborhood cafe was not the kind of place Adrian usually visited. He preferred five-star hotels and private lounges, but it was the only spot nearby while his meeting ran late. Inside, the warm smell of fresh coffee and pastries wrapped around him, but Adrian barely noticed. He scanned the menu for a second, then leaned back in his chair, tapping his fingers impatiently. When a young waitress approached another table, he snapped his fingers sharply, like summoning a servant. "Hey, you, coffee black, now?" he said without looking up from his phone. The soft chatter in the cafe seemed to pause. Emily, the waitress, walked over slowly, holding her order pad. She wasn't rude, but her voice was steady and clear. "Sir, we speak to each other with respect here. If you can't do that, I won't be able to serve you." For a moment, Adrian thought he had misheard. People didn't talk to him like that, not business partners, not employees, not even rivals. He lowered his phone and studied her face. She didn't look angry or nervous. She simply meant every word. A couple at a nearby table exchanged surprised glances, and the barista froze mid-pour. Adrian's lips tightened. Without saying another word, he pushed back his chair, stood, and walked out, the bell above the door jingling sharply in the silence. Emily returned to her work, but deep down, she knew this wasn't the last time she would see him. That night, Adrian Cole lay in his penthouse apartment. The glittering city skyline spread out beneath him like a kingdom he owned. He had been to countless meetings, closed billion-dollar deals, and faced cutthroat competitors without a flicker of emotion. Yet the calm voice of a waitress in a tiny cafe kept echoing in his mind. "We speak to each other with respect here." It wasn't the words alone, but the way she had said them. No fear, no hesitation. Just simple, uncheckable truth. Adrian turned off his phone and stared at the ceiling, wondering why it bothered him so much. People usually bent over backwards to please him, eager for his money or influence. But she had risked offending him without gaining anything in return. He found himself opening his laptop and searching for the cafe's name. A few clicks revealed it had been running for over a decade but was struggling lately, with fewer customers and rising bills. Emily's name appeared in the staff photo, smiling warmly, holding a tray of coffee. She was not just a random waitress. She had been there for years. Adrian leaned back in his chair, remembering his own mother, who had worked in a small diner when he was a boy. She had always told him, "Money can open doors, but kindness keeps them open." Somewhere along the road to wealth, he had locked that part of himself away. By midnight, he wasn't thinking about contracts or investments. He was thinking about that cafe, that woman, and the strange pull he felt to understand her better. And by the time the city lights dimmed in the early morning, Adrian had already made up his mind. He was going back. The next morning, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets washed clean under a pale winter sun. Inside the small cafe, the smell of fresh muffins drifted through the air as Emily wiped down tables, unaware that the man she had stood up to just a day ago was already on his way back. But Adrian Cole didn't arrive in his usual fashion. This time, there was no luxury car parked right outside the door, no expensive watch flashing under the light. He wore a plain gray sweater, dark jeans, and walked in quietly, drawing only a few curious glances from the customers. Emily froze for a brief second when she saw him, but kept her expression neutral, determined not to let him unsettle her again. Adrian didn't head for a table. Instead, he went straight to the counter and asked in a calm voice, "Is the owner here?" She hesitated, but eventually led him through the narrow hallway to the back office, where Mr. Jenkins, a kind but weary man in his 60s, was going over bills. Adrian introduced himself, though his name was clearly recognized, and without much small talk, he placed a thick folder on the desk. "I'd like to buy this cafe," he said plainly, his voice leaving no room for doubt. Mr. Jenkins blinked in disbelief. Why on earth would you want to do that? Adrian glanced at Emily briefly before replying, on one condition, she stays and the staff get better pay. Everything else stays the same. The old man leaned back, stunned, while Emily stood frozen in the doorway, torn between suspicion and confusion. She couldn't tell if this was generosity or just another kind of power move. The deal was signed in less than 2 hours, leaving Mr. Jenkins still shaking his head in disbelief and Emily trying to process what had just happened. Later that afternoon, when the cafe was quiet, Adrian asked Emily to sit with him at a small corner table. She folded her arms, her eyes narrowing slightly. Why would you spend so much money on a cafe you don't even like? To prove a point? To get back at me? She asked bluntly. Adrian didn't flinch. No, he said quietly. You reminded me of something I forgot a long time ago. His gaze drifted to the window, where a light drizzle had begun to fall. When I was a kid, my mother ran a place a lot like this. She worked hard, treated every customer with kindness, even the rude ones. But she always told me, money doesn't buy respect, you earn it. Somewhere along the way I lost that lesson. He looked back at her, his voice steady. Yesterday you gave it back to me. You didn't care about who I was or how much I had. You cared about what was right. Emily's expression softened, but she still wasn't ready to trust him. Owning a cafe doesn't change the way you treat people, she said. Adrian gave a small smile, not defensive, almost hopeful. I know, but maybe working here will. There was a pause, a quiet tension between them, before Emily finally stood. We'll see, she replied, walking back toward the counter. Adrian watched her go, realizing that for the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about profits or prestige. He was thinking about becoming the kind of man his mother would have been proud of. Weeks passed, and the cafe began to feel different. The coffee tasted the same, the walls still carried the same warm smell of baked goods, but there was a new energy inside, laughter from the kitchen, friendly chatter between tables, and a sense of comfort that money alone could never buy. Adrian kept his promise. The staff received better pay. The menu stayed affordable, and nothing about the cafe's charm was touched. But the biggest change was in Adrian himself. He didn't just sit in the corner reading the news anymore. He brewed coffee, learned to carry 3 plates at once, and even helped wipe down tables during busy mornings. At first, customers whispered about the billionaire-turned-barista, but soon they treated him like anyone else. One rainy morning, a sharply dressed man at the counter snapped at a young waiter for being too slow. Adrian looked up from behind the espresso machine, walked over, and in a calm, steady voice said, "We treat everyone with respect here. If you can't do that, we can't serve you." The cafe went quiet for a moment, and Emily, polishing cups nearby, caught his eye. This time it was her turn to smile. She could see the change wasn't just an act. Something inside him had shifted for good. As the man left in silence, Adrian returned to his work, steam rising from the coffee machine. Emily thought about how strange life could be, how a single moment of honesty could change someone's path entirely. For Adrian, the cafe had started as a purchase, but it became something far more valuable. He had all the money in the world, but now, for the first time in years, he felt truly rich.